Did Rona do her introduction? Did she say something rude about me? Yeah, she forgets I've got 15 minutes up here. All right, before I start, I have to do this. Otherwise, you just won't really be able to know. Who I am. Can you all see? It's important, so. Right. Mass hilarity aside, I wasn't really sure how to begin this speech because everything seems to shift and change by the hour nowadays. But I'm just going to begin by saying that what I'm going to talk about today comes only from my personal experience and my personal experience alone. As you well know, we are not one big, pink, homogeneous blob. We have differing opinions, thank God. We have differing politics. We have differing attitudes. We are all totally different people. The only connection we have with each other, bar friendships and a lot of support, is the fact that we are same-sex attracted or partial to a little bit of both. Some of us lived through an extremely dark, horrific period. The loathing, the hatred, the fear, the eternal presence of harm or worse. AIDS brought devastation to our door, which was back then a rather closed-off, intentionally furtive, cloaked world. Let me just read out a tweet I put out at the beginning of this year of my own personal observation as to how we arrived here. It's not definitive by any means, but it'll give you an idea of where I'm coming from. Very dry. After homosexuality was decriminalised, 1967 for UK, 1980 for Scotland, and 1982 for Northern Ireland, after decades of being arrested, feared, beaten up, loathed, and truly marginalised, after HIV wretchedly and terrifyingly tore through our lives of so many LGB people, we gained gradual tolerance, then acceptance, and then finally equality. We enjoy a relatively peaceful 10 to 15 year period, and equality was what was promised, and it was delivered, and we wanted no more, no less. Then Stonewall et al. Added letters which inexorably limpited themselves onto the LGB, despite having nothing to do with being same-sex attracted. It's not better. Not better, not worse, simply unrelated and different. Said alphabet group begins to tarnish any gains that have been made by promoting disingenuous revisionism, extremist activism, fetishes performed in public and normalised, decides to wage a war upon women and LGB people, and worst of all, actively involves and indoctrinates other people's children. This begins early, contrary to popular denials, from primary school upwards, thus creating huge resentment and inviting an ever-growing and dangerous backlash. Homophobia massively increases. Alphabet Group attempts to blame LGB people and women who become vocally critical of how this affects us all. They refuse to compromise or debate. Division and anger rises. Alphabet Group continues to constantly control the narrative and demonize all those who object. People are dragged through the courts for years, usually, eventually vindicated, but the damage is done and it's immense. As usual, the process is the punishment. Women's rights and gay people's freedoms to assemble as they choose are all under serious threat as Alphabet Group continues to prioritise themselves over the disabled, the elderly, and virtually every other vulnerable group with zero self-awareness, encouraged by institutions, allies, celebrities, and social media. They gain huge power through sponsorship, social media, mainstream media, advertising, the education system, the government, lobby groups, etc. Yet still they claim they are the most marginalised, whilst being indulged and revered and celebrated in almost every single Western country there is. Misogyny, which never went away, spirals out of control. Homophobia does not discriminate between the ideological zealots and others simply attempting to get through the day-to-day. Those who believe in biological reality and detransitioners, who were used as guinea pigs when very young, are also demonized and chastised. Women and girls' private spaces, sports, clubs, privacy and dignity are all under siege. The briefly peaceful atmosphere is now utterly torn apart, ripped to pieces by flimsy and highly suspect ideologies and a rampant loathing of women. Many of those who once supported us have now turned their backs. Many do recognise the distinction between those who are simply LGB and the rest, yes, but I fear in time the narcissism and the arrogance of this gender generation who have been manipulated and lied to will be our undoing. NB, although I do feel that the tide is on the turn. Of course, I've not covered everything. The money Big Pharma reaps for lifetime medication and surgical procedures, instantly affirming young people's confusion and torment, all natural in young people, and putting them on an irreversible course of treatments and surgeries obviously plays an enormous role. Allies support this movement without true comprehension of the consequences, and they simply follow blindly because they chose to take a 4-year-old child's vivid imagination and word as gospel, as the kids have been taught that being called trans, non-binary, involves extra attention and special privileges. And this is where we are now. Uncomfortable truths are inconvenient, I realise, but I think this is exactly how we ended up where we are today. And it's bleak. But we have no choice but to keep speaking up. We did not start this bonfire, but we remain bloody determined to watch it burn itself out. So, again, I emphasise this is what I personally lived through and have observed, and how dare anyone question my lived experience. As the saying goes. The pertinent question I wish to pose today is, why are we even here? Why has it been necessary for the LGB Alliance to come into being? Why are so many gay and bisexual people now so utterly disillusioned with the 2S LGBTQIA++++ community? Why did Bev and Kate decide to set it up, thus voluntarily wading into a storm of biblical proportions to refight the battle that had already been won years before? Do our detractors really believe that Bev picked up the phone one day on a whim, bored to tears? Huh? I mean, can you imagine it? The phone rings, Kate picks it up. Yo, Kate, Bev here. Hey, Hey, Bev, how you doing, my darling? Yeah, chill. Just, you know. Look, I'm just checking. Are you still lesbian, yeah? Does K.D. Lang scissor in the woods? Good, because I think it'd be rather fun to set up, get this, a group for same-sex attracted people. Right. But here's the kicker. We leave off the extra letters. Yay. What for? Shits and giggles, guy. You know, just to really piss them off and spend 4 years being called a hate group, get taken to court, work our asses off 24/7 with little or no support, tirelessly against an increasingly hostile and aggressive movement. What do you reckon? Sounds like fun. That's my girl. Listen, by the way, oranges aren't the only fruiters on tonight. Could you record it for me? I mean, the Alliance wasn't created in a vacuum. It didn't suddenly spring out of nowhere for no reason. It was actually in demand from same-sex attracted people who were becoming utterly fed up with being tethered to organisations or lobby groups who had suddenly decided that unless one fully went along with gender identity, ideology, and to a marked degree, the implementation of queer theory, you were no longer of any concern to them. You were to be defecated upon, cast out, demonised. You were told to shut up. You were told you were just whinging little fuckers. Some of you were even told you shouldn't exist. You were told this is how things are. No debate, no discussion. The word queer had been reclaimed, they announced. Not by the original gay activists, you know, we're here, we're queer, get used to it, but now by mostly straight young people whose entire personalities are defined by additional, essentially meaningless labels. In fact, these people now hold all the power in a room. Your livelihood now depends on the say-so of a trans-identifying, non-binary, asexual individual. Seemingly overnight, women were told that their spaces, prisons, shelters, sports were suddenly a free-for-all. Any individual presenting in whatever fashion, male, female, doesn't matter, were now open to all. The admission price, your self-identity. Did they really expect acquiescence? Did they truly assume women worldwide would roll over and accept such a move? That they'd simply fold and do as they're told? I mean, it's almost as if they don't actually know what a woman is. Odd that, isn't it? So, to those of you out there who maliciously continue to perpetrate the absolute lie that the Alliance is a hate group, or sinister, or egregious, take note, Nicholson. I say this: you have no business reviewing the film if you haven't bothered to watch it. You have no business slagging off a book you have no intention of reading. You have no business offering any opinion on the Alliance if you haven't turned up here to learn the truth about the vital work that is being done for gay people who would otherwise be caught up in gender confusion or pressured into thinking they were simply born in the wrong body. Just stop with your malignant lies. Stop with your unfounded smears. Stop with your ludicrous conspiracy theories. The current gender movement is undoubtedly the most homophobic movement I have witnessed since the early 80s. and that is no exaggeration. We have all of us re-experienced being called faggots, puffs, dirty dykes, AIDS carriers, from three very specific groups. Firstly, the mob that is known as the trans radical activists. Secondly, from those who feel the need to put their preferred pronouns on their online bios. Not all, by any means. Not all people who have pronouns in their bios will abuse you. But in all abusive messages, 99% of the time, the poster will have them on display. And thirdly, from the allies. Perhaps the most worrisome group of all, who understand so little of the facts, or indeed what the entire argument is about, that I'm continually astonished how usually intelligent people have become so utterly brainwashed. As Helen Joyce said, and I paraphrase, those who have skin in the game are paralysed. They're in too deep. They have to live with the consequences of their actions. You three groups, plus your ideological mentors, are the very reason the Alliance is absolutely essential. It exists as the only charity for same-sex attracted people in the UK. There are beginning to be offshoots. Gay Men's Network, Human Gay Male, to mention two for gay men, but lesbian groups are still having to meet in secret, underground. Lesbians, in secret, 2024. Meeting covertly. Far from being what you grotesquely and misleadingly term an exclusionary hate group, the Alliance actually welcomes all people, regardless, who are determined that young gay youth are not manipulated, coerced, or pressured into accepting gender ideology as the sole source of one's sole being. And that reality exists, just as it did 10 to 15 short years ago. It's no coincidence that you also targeted the wonderful online newspaper Lesbian and Gay News, bravely brought about by David Bridle. Nearly finished. This is the most important bit of all, I think. It's okay to be an effeminate boy. It's okay to be a tomboy. It's perfectly normal, and it's as much part of you as your personality, but it's not your whole personality. It's actually a very small part, but one that in today's world you should be much more comfortable with than any of us older folk ever were. But sadly, all that progress, all that acceptance, all that goodwill is slowly being crushed underfoot, and it's our gay youth who are paying the price, which is exactly why we're here. We're here for you, so you can know you're just fine and dandy as you are. I'm going to finish on a chirpy note, I think. One of the comments I always see online is things like, what have the LGB Alliance ever done for me? They don't represent me. What have they ever done? Well, I'll tell you what they've done. They were the first gay rights charity to make it explicit that many kids at gender clinics are simply same-sex attracted and are undergoing a kind of conversion therapy. They helped to close down the Tavistock, to ban puberty blockers, and their campaign to block private providers like Gender GP from prescribing drugs online was picked up by Victoria Atkins, the Tory minister who launched emergency legislation as the very last act of government, and the band has just been renewed by West Streeting. They built up a UK-wide network of friends groups so that people even in rural areas can meet up, go to the pub, go camping, go to a gallery with other like-minded people. Crucially, they also launched a helpline for young people. Astonishingly, it is the only helpline for same-sex attracted people in the UK. All the rest of the helplines would most likely suggest that boys worried about being feminine might actually be girls, or vice versa. So if you're young, you think you're gay, or you're bi, or you just want to hear a friendly voice to help you in whatever way, please do not hesitate to call this caring service, who will listen to any or all of your concerns. They've been asked by the new Labour government to consult on policies directly affecting LGB people, and they are working to make sure they are at the table in all government departments. They have also worked incredibly hard to show that sexual orientation and gender identity are not the same thing, and that LGB people need and deserve their own charity. And they're still standing, despite many bad faith actors attempting to destroy them. Were it not having to waste an enormous amount of time and money on malicious and vexatious legal complaints, which had to be fought robustly and decisively and at much personal cost to those involved, I have not the slightest doubt even more crucial work would have been accomplished. So I'd like to finish by saying a huge thank you. Thank you, Bev Jackson. Thank you. Thank you, Kate Harris. Thank you, Kate Barker. Thank you, Eileen Gallagher. Thank you all, sincerely, for being our shield, for doing so much necessary work, for the tears of anger and frustration, for the ecstatic highs and the ghastly lows you endured for us. That you all had to come back to a fight you thought was done and soldier on under constant attack has been inspirational on so many levels. You have our support, our gratitude, our awe, and above all, our eternal love. Thank you very much.